come on in and join me for another day on the handheld, but keeping it steady for you. We'll drop you on the tripod shortly, don't you worry about that, but if I'm handheld I can just walk you around. I did a little bit late night, a little midnight session, because I couldn't help myself. I don't like watching telly, I like to go out in the shed. I like going out there and working. So I dug a few more parts out. One of the parts I dug out was the power steering bracket. Also holds the alternator. Because we're having power steering on this car, that's your power steering bracket. It's off a Mk3 Cortina, and I had it galvanised, and then I dug out the 4 mounting bolts for it, and I've only just nipped them up. I've labelled it that it's loose, just so I don't forget. Some of the items which I'm going to do later I've labelled up. So, for example, on the water pumps, check the torque value. I don't think we need to actually do that now because I can't find torque settings for the water pump. But I know it looks a bit OCD, this. It's a bit like that film, what was it called? Christian Bale film, The Machinist. In The Machinist he goes around with post-it notes everywhere because he's got memory problems. A bit like that maybe. Here, spray bar, grommet and tighten. If you want to forget them, there may be a grommet in this spray bar, little rubber O-ring, possibly. I think there is. So things like that, little crazy things like that. This is something that I do. You may be more sharper than I am, and not as forgetful. I'm not really that forgetful, but there's a lot to be thinking about here, so that's why the crazy little labels are going everywhere. Maybe I'll tie one around my own neck. Okay, so we also found the rubber grommet inserts for the cam cover, and I just mocked it up. I'm going to take it off now. It's not needed at the moment, but the grommets are inserted into the cam cover there, you can see, and we've got to get that little clip. I might dig that out now and it's out of the way. There's a little horseshoe clip right in the middle of your screen, and that just helps the cam cover guide onto the guide bolt, which actually doubles up as the water pump mounting bolt. You can see it there. Pulleys have gone on. We've got a sprocket pulley on. We'll talk about that now. Let's place this cam cover just over here. We'll talk you through what we're about to do and what we've done off screen, what wasn't filmed. Temporary distributor in, that's not the one. We've got a H&H Bosch lookalike electronic dizzy going in with electronic ignition. So this sprocket wheel, we had that on because we primed the engine with the oil pump. We haven't turned the crank yet, and we're not going to do that. I'll tell you why in a sec. These are nipped up, but again we'll double check before we finalise, and that'll remind us. Cam vernier wheel on, preliminarily on, with the right bolts, and then as I said, the sprocket, we can't put the flywheel pulley on yet, the crank pulley on yet, because we need to get the cam belt in. Top dead centre line is there. That's when the piston's at the top on number 1. It corresponds with the groove which is on this, but just to double check, I put the dial gauge into the piston and just dialed it in, but it did correspond with the large marking on this special flywheel pulley here. The sprocket, it's got a little dot on the front so you know which is backwards and forwards on the sprocket. The raised edge of the sprocket goes in first and it stands it off away a little bit. The flat edge of the sprocket is the facing out. This then goes there as a dish. That's the belt guide, the cam belt guide. That's been recoated, so it's clean. So that went on. I put a little bit of oil. I used some grease and slid the sprocket on. Went on okay. So I did that, and now what I'm doing is I've started fitting a couple of the cam followers. Here they are. We put the cam lube on everywhere that it faces and touches, including the ball studs. So we've screwed some ball studs in, and then we glued them with the cam lube everywhere where you're going to get contact. So these are new springs and followers, and the new valve springs as well. Ball studs are from the old engine. Now we're going to screw all the ball studs as far down as we can, then slide in the followers. We're not going to set the clearances just yet. We're going to get the clearances in a minute, but we're going to work out how to set the cam timing, and we've read the instructions. and you have to follow a certain procedure. The first procedure is to to find true top dead center on your crank and get the crank set at that position. The way that we do it, it's better, and we haven't done it of course, but it's better to do it when the head's off, because your dial gauge can sit better on the block and measure the piston when it comes to the very top. That's what we're looking for. There's a dwell point when it's at the top and you still get crank rotation yet the piston doesn't move. That's because of the dwell. So you measure that and divide it halfway between it to get your average. But we can do it with a rod in here and the gauge sat on the side of the block. So as the piston comes up, it gently just brushes on the rod. I put a little bit of grease at the end of the rod so it's not scratching the crown of the piston. Dial gauge on the side. We're going to redo it. I've already done it, but we're going to redo it because we've done it just to get a rough position. But I'm going to do it now with this timing wheel that fits on here, which enables us to measure the amount of degrees that it's turning, which then helps us to set up the position exactly in relation to this bottom sprocket to the top sprocket, because these need to be synchronized together. I'm not talking engine language now, I'm talking layman terms. The bottom sprocket needs to be synchronized with the top cam. That's your cam timing to get the engine to fire at the right point. And when you're using a non-standard factory cam like this one, this Kent 30 cam, this high torque cam, or any aftermarket cam, you can't use the Ford's normal position, and it's normally quite straightforward, excuse the pun on the Ford. You get a little dial indicator backing plate with a little pointer needle on it, and you can set it up pretty much by sight. But when you fit an aftermarket cam, and I believe this information is correct, but feel free to correct me along the way, because I've mentioned that I'm just learning this, so please let me learn. Don't criticise too harshly. Just give me a little bit of slack. I'm trying my best, but I'll appreciate your feedback on this one. I am not saying that it's all as it should be, but I'm hoping I'm close, you know. So yeah, talking about the cam, all these aftermarket cams with different timing lobes need a little bit extra setting up. So Ford didn't cater for that because they're aftermarket. So the vernier helps you to fine tune. Sometimes trying to get the cam in just the right position lays between the teeth, whereas a vernier lets you go between that gap and a little bit more as well. So the vernier is adjustable, comes with these Allen keys, and you can move this. The cam will stay still, but yet the wheel will turn with the crank, leaving the cam in the same position, only by a few degrees of movement, but it helps you to get it exactly where you need. And the name of the game is to put the dial card, I'll go over to it, I'm sorry I'm not on the tripod just yet, but we will be. We've got it in here. It's a plastic wheel from Kent. Here it is. We may have shown this on Project Ruby, I don't know, but it bolts to the front just by sandwiching it between. I put two washers on here so we can sandwich it, but you can just put the bolt head on if you want. You don't need two washers. I've done that. And you make yourself your own little pointer. You could use this edge, but it tends to raise off it, you see. So when I say you could use it, really you can't. This will be here, and then we use, I think when I did this last, I've used these little bits of wire. Sounds a bit crazy, but you kind of like find a place to bolt them, and that becomes your pointer. So we'll probably highlight the end of this with a bit of paint, but this piece of brazing rod's going to be our pointer to point at this disc here. This disc will sit sandwiched on the end of the crank, and when the crank is at top dead center, and by that I mean the piston is right at the top of its movement on piston number 1, by the way. You do everything from piston number 1. When it's right at the top, and we get that by having a little rod touching the top of the piston which pushes up, and we have our dial gauge, a very sensitive little gauge that can sense movement. Let's go to the dial gauge. This is what they call it. It's magnetically mounted, so you can stick it virtually anywhere. Look how sensitive it is to little bits of movement. So if you imagine now, my finger's the top of the piston, and this little rod you can see will be my extender bar, because this isn't long enough to reach the piston through the spark plug hole, because we need to extend it a bit. But the piston will come up and it'll reach its max point, and then the needle will start to go back the other way again as the piston drops away. And you'll find that as you rock the 19mm crank bolt, this needle will have a high point before it starts to return. And you'll notice a little bit of a delay, or what they call a lag, or a dwell period, where not a lot happens. That's as the piston's completely at its top dead centre, and it's that area we're interested in. So once we find that area, and we then leave the piston parked in that position, using this to help us, then we'd look at where we'd move this card to the pointer, so we can first fit the pointer anywhere we want. So the pointer's that brazing rod I just talked about. We're going to bolt it on somewhere. Perhaps we could use this alternator bolt and have the pointer knocking around here somewhere with some yellow paint on the end of it. Then, because we know the piston's exactly where it should be, right at the top of its movement, we tighten the bolt and wash her up on this card and point the arrow to the pointer that we've just fitted, and that's all zeroed in. Then any movement, and you always go clockwise on your engine, would be called after top dead centre. So that would be, that red arrow would be top dead centre, and then we'd start to go so many degrees after it. And that is what they want you to do, or so many degrees before it. You can rock backwards, by the way. So we'd either go after or before. It depends on what they want us to do. This is where we're going to read the instructions, but I'm just letting this sink into my head at first, because I'm still a little bit confused about it, but I'm going to crack it, don't worry, it won't beat me. So we're going to use this, and we're going to be turning this, and we're also going to be measuring the amount of lift that we get, and that also tells us when this is at the right point. So there's a combination of factors. Number one, parking up your piston so it's right at the top, exactly, by using the dial gauge to tell us that we've got it. Then by fitting the timing card and a pointer, piece of steel pointer wire that we'll make, so that we know we're zeroed here and we can start to read exact movements of the crank relative to the pointer. And then by synchronizing this with an exact position of this, we can then fit the timing belt, and the two become locked together. And that means that as soon as the engine turns, it's now turning via the cam belt, the cam in the correct relative movement to the piston. And of course that all controls the way the engine would fire, because the piston and crank also would be driving the distributor, which opens the spark, which opens the contact points, or in this case electronic points, which creates the spark, which, depending on where the piston is, the spark would be in the right place. The valves would then be either closed, open, about to close, however it is, and everything's all relative. So distributor position, the cam position, and the crank position all have to be in the right area according to the plans which Kent tell us. So the plans, the instruction card from Kent is in my hand, and it lists two methods of doing it. One's called camshaft timing using full lift after stroke before top dead centre. TDC means top dead centre. Or there's another method, it's on the other side of the card I think, which is, let's have a look at the valve lift at top dead centre method. So look, there's two methods: camshaft timing using full lift after top dead centre or before, and valve lift at top dead centre method. So there's two methods that you can use to synchronise your cam with your crank. That's all it is, synchronising the cam with the crank, and at the same time making sure that your distributor, I think we'd be looking at pointing at plug number one. So the rotor cap needs to be, plug number one's around here normally. I think the rotor cap should be around there, because you want this to be sat. So you don't want you could set this up so it works, but you can set it up and this ends up being right, this advance and retard vacuum diaphragm ends up being up this end, you need to have the park position of your distributor wants to be around that area. That's where it's designed to fit with the vac pipe and everything. So that needs to be around there. And when we look at the manual, we see the plug arrangement, and I think spark plug 1 plug lead's always around that point. So we'd have to make sure that we turn this, that it's in that area when we fit the cam belt, so that that and the crank are all in the same, or the correct relative positions to each other. That's what it's about. The exact science of it I'm still learning, in terms of the actual duration of lift and degree of lift and valve exhaust and valve inlet. That bit I don't understand just yet exactly. This bit I can get my head around so far. What I have tried to do is make a clean build and a clean engine and try and do it as professionally as I can. It's quite enjoyable to learn. A little element of it is exciting when you don't quite understand it, because when you crack it, it's quite a big buzz and you feel quite a degree of satisfaction that you've done it. Of course, it's always ask for help, and I have done, and I'm continue to ask for help even during today's filming, because I want to get it right. Now, we haven't moved the crank, and I've gone back to this point I raised about 10 minutes ago. The crank, whilst the engine build was professionally done, as you can see, it's a pretty clean job that they've done, and they did oil the crank and they oiled the bores. I still don't want to turn the crank. It's, at the moment, all the pistons are parked dead level, which is a good way to be when you put your head on. It's just a good practice to have your pistons all leveled out halfway down the engine, and that's how they supplied it to me. It hasn't moved, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to squirt a little bit of oil down into each bore, and it'll just drop down a little bit, and let it just reach the rings. And when I turn the crank, even though we've already primed oil through it, I don't know that it's got everywhere that it should, because that crank needs to dip into that sump quite quick and splosh around and stuff. So it's best that we put some oil in. It's not going to do any harm. When the engine eventually is ignited or running or fires up, that oil would probably just burn up out of the way, and I don't think it'll leave any deposits. Not a small amount like that. It's not going to carbon up the engine that quick. I think it'll just blow it and burn it and blast it out, and it'll be gone. I'd be happy doing that. So a little oil can and just some of the engine oil that we're using, and just squirt it in each bore, and then we'll then set this up, the timing wheel. Let's see if we can do it. The followers, we need to obviously fit all of the followers. As we're turning this, we can get them, feed them in. I've started on a few here. They're quite easy to do. These little springs fit inboard, and these, I've been using me hook ended pick and just lift the spring, and then it clips in quite nice. We'll show you that on the tripod. But what I do is put the cam lube on everywhere. So we'll be making sure that each one, because as it first fires up, it needs to have that lubrication, that special lubrication, that sticky lubrication, until the engine really gets going. Okay, so we're on with that. At the same time as doing this, I'm also on the scout for nuts and bolts and anything else. For example, we've still got the thermostat housing to fix, and I had to find a thermostat. I knew I had one, and eventually it's turned up, so that's good. And also the crank pulley's turned up, which I thought I actually didn't think I owned one of these, so somehow I've acquired it. It's a dual pulley alternator crank pulley, and that's for the twin belts for the powered steering. So everything on this has twin belts, including the water pump. I'm not fitting a viscous fan, I'm not fitting a fixed fan, it's purely electric, so there's no fan going on. So the pulley itself, what would normally have the fan attached for these bolts, it just bolts straight on there, and that's the end of that. So that can actually go on and get it out of the way, nothing to stop that. So various things happen all at once on this, but the main question in my mind is to get the timing, because everything else I understand and I can do. Okay, well, I've rambled on a little bit there. I know a lot of you do closely watch. You get a school of people who are just happy with detailed explanations. Some want quick fixes, and I understand that you want quick fixes, and you might not have the patience to listen through all my talking, but I can guarantee that if you were doing the same, you'd listen to everything, because in case you missed anything. But if you're just casually browsing, then I appreciate you want to get onto a bit of action, and listening to me ramble on about engines isn't maybe what you want, but we have our moments on the channel where there is some fun. Right, I'm going to set up the pointer. I'm going to put the cam card on the end of there. I'm going to fit the rest of the followers, and we're going to learn. We're going to read this, then read it again, then read it again, because I've read it about 5 times and I still don't quite get it. I've still not quite, and I consider myself someone who's capable of understanding it, so let's see. Okay, before we forget, let's just put a couple of squirts in each bore. It won't do any harm. They'll be okay now. There'll be a nice cloud of smoke probably when this goes up. So that's that. A good old oil can in, just to help keep the wolf from the door. Okay, we can now turn with confidence. I think I did do one rotation and then I stopped before I thought, oh, hold on a sec, do not do anything until you leave that up. So it has had one turn, but it had, like I said, it did have oil, because when this was upside down, oil was dribbling out of it. When it was the other way up on the stand, oil was coming out. So it's not been bone dry, so we're okay, but it's best just to give it another helping hand. Okay, we're on with that. It's timing wheel next. Okay, it's time to fit in approximate position there. Sometimes the crank bolt here that I've got my fingers on now, once you've been turning the engine with your 19 spanner, can lock. You can't get it undone again. Let's say I want to undo that now, it won't undo. So if you strike it quickly, it will undo. If you just pop that down, it'll go. You can use also a winding gun and it'll come off. So otherwise you're going to have to lock the crank somehow. So that's that. Everything feels alright there. Engine turns over nice and free. So what we need is a pointer. We're going to bolt a pointer on. There's a convenient point to bolt it to on that alternator bracket. So we'll now bolt that on, paint the end yellow. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got the dial gauge indicator sitting on the piston via an extension rod, which is gently positioned into the piston so it's free to move at the right angle, very gently. And we're in the approximate top dead centre position, where you're going to see how when I turn the crank, the gauge is going to move. It's going to move one way, then it's going to move the other. Did you see that? Even though I'm continuing the same rotation, piston's now on its way back down. So I'm going to bring the piston back up. It's pushing on the bar, it's pushing on the gauge. It will reach a point where it slows and then starts to come back again. That's between those 2 points is where we live. That's the dwell. You can just see it. I'm just going to check on your screen. You can just about see that. So what I'm establishing is halfway between the dwell. That's the point where it doesn't do anything, even though you continue to move. So I'm still moving, still moving, still moving, and it's not doing anything now. And then it'll start to go back. So that's the area that you want. Just there. Back again. So it stops moving. We're now at top dead centre. I'll now take you out and see how that was set up. So from this shot you can see the magnetic clamps held onto the block. You can adjust all the angles and heights with these knobs here and slide it exactly where you want, and we just want it to just gently lay on the top of the piston. We don't want any force or anything like that. There's a little bit of grease on the end of this bar just to help it. Don't scratch the piston, but that's able to move there like that. Now it's not an exact measurement of course, it's just to give us an indication that it's reached its peak, so you don't actually need to read any numbers off it, just that it's maxed out, the piston, and then it's on its way back down. That's all that is. Quite crude really. I didn't have the extender bar that should be with this really, so I've used a socket bar, but it's effectively the same thing. So I've not moved the piston at all now, it stays exactly where it is, and we now move our pointer to point on the dial wheel that we've bolted up to 0. I'll come show you that now. Okay, you can see the dial gauge, and you can see the pointer which I've made here. I just marked it with red and filed the end of the brazing rod so it's got a fine tip on it, and it's almost pointing on it as it is, so I'm just going to bend it till it fits, and that's it. It's actually done it there. There you go. I'll zoom you in a little bit. Again, rare use of the zoom, but it'll help you in this situation. A little bit of pan and tilt, and a little bit of zoom. Won't go amiss for you today. And there you have it. My pointer needle exactly on there, as long as we don't bend that. Shouldn't do. It's quite springy and it's tightened up nicely onto the bracket. So that is our cam position, how we wanted it, top dead center, and I'm ready to read off. Any rotation now in degrees on these points will tell us how much of a turn the crank's done, and we can now set up the next stage. Okay, a point of view for the camera. You're reading it like I am. So camshaft timing using full lift after or before top dead center method. Okay, so they're saying 0 the a datum, establish top dead center as a datum, 0 degrees, position your camshaft with the inlet or exhaust valve, inlet or exhaust. So that's interesting. Why didn't it tell me either inlet or exhaust? At maximum lift at a given position relative to this datum. Take our 2 litre single O red cam RL30, which has a quoted figure of inlet time in full lift at 105 degrees. So we need to find our FR30 cam on the chart, and there it is at the top. Sports Torque FR30, inlet timing at full lift. It doesn't say exhaust timing at full lift, so it's just inlet. Inlet timing at full lift, it's 110 on the inlet. So I'm going to presume, this may be wrong, I'm going to turn the wheel, or the cam, the crank I mean, sorry, I'm going to turn the crank. Sorry about the going off the tripod. And we go round till we get to 110. Okay, that's why we've used the wheel. So you can see, I might just have to rock back a little bit. I will in a sec. I'll rock back a little bit to get it exact. But can you see, I'm going to land on 110, and at that position, it wants the inlet valve to be fully open. So we actually don't need the dial gauge really, although we could use it to tell that it is fully open. So we'll keep the dial gauge on. I've got the dial gauge on the inlet at the moment. So we're going to rotate the sprocket of the camshaft until this valve is on the maximum lobe, the highest point of the lobe that pushes it open, and that we could tell that off the deflection. Again, we don't need to read any numbers off it. We can just look at the gauge needle and watch it go one way, and as you carry on turning it'll start to drag back, and then you'll find a dwell between it. Now that'll get us approximate, and I think that then I'll take expert advice on how there's probably a way that you can get it really close, but I believe that you could do that by using the vernier, and we could use that in a rolling road situation. So perhaps we could get the engine running close, then take it in and get it tuned properly. So I think this is a way of doing it so that we can get the engine started as close as we can, so that everything's relatively correct, and then we can take expert advice on it, on how to tune it in, and hopefully you'll only have to do it by using the vernier wheel, which means no disassembly needed. That's my theory, that's my plan of attack. That's what I'm trying to do, is get it so okay, that will start that engine, and there won't be any interference with the pistons, no valves are going to hit any pistons or anything like that, because these high lift cams do cause interference with the pistons. That's the thing, the pistons aren't scooped out. Whether my pistons were supposed to be scooped out, I don't know. If they are supposed to be scooped out, I'll just put a standard cam in it. There's no way I'm taking the engine to bits, so I'll have to lose the FR30. I don't think that's the case. Ruby's has the same setup as this and it works, although I did have some pinking problems on Ruby which I eventually solved. So 110 and then full lift on the inlet. Let's double check that. So it's giving us the sports cam. I'm looking on the chart, sorry it's a bit shaky and it's handheld here. FR30 power band we don't need, cam lift inlet stroke exhaust, I don't know what that refers to. Valve lift inlet exhaust. Oh, so cam lift will be the actual amount. On the lobe, I would have thought, well, these could be timing ones. Duration, I know that's something to do with overlap, how long things are open for. Timing figures, I don't understand. 20, 60, 60, 20, double Dutch. Inlet timing at full lift, this is the only way I could think that we use the wheel. Full lift on the inlet at 110, that's all I can go for, and I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to ring people up. I'm going to ring Kent Cam up now. It's only 3:30, so I'm going to phone them. I'll set it like this. So what I'm going to do, park that exactly on 110. It's not quite on oh actually it is on exactly on 110. Oh no, can you see it's like, oh, it's half a mil off on my pointer. And we can turn this till that inlet lobe. So let's go up a bit closer. There's the inlet, because look, here's the first inlet port. That's the spring for it. The dial indicator's resting on it, so it doesn't need to be accurate in terms of reading numbers, it just needs to be deflection. Indeed, we could use this marker ring to help us. You can slide that round, but we'll turn that cam. It's approaching opening it now. So if I carry on pulling down, at the same time making sure, we're going to look inside the bore, make sure the piston's nowhere near this valve as it comes in. You can see the gauge, look how it changes. Now it's going anti-clockwise, but what'll happen is once I get past a certain point, and bear in mind this might try and spring away from me because the other followers aren't connected, so this is going to try and run away with itself as the spring pushes up a little bit, probably. I felt that happening early on. See, the needle's now stopped moving, and there's a dwell point now where nothing's happening, and it's that dwell point where I think the exact science is, because I'm still turning that, and there's quite a lot more dwell point than top dead center. When we did it on top dead center, it was soon about to change back the other way. This time the dwell point lingers a lot longer. So I think that the dwell point is a science whereabouts we set the tooth, because it could be 2 or 3 teeth out that now. So do we divide it? How far? Now this is where we make the call. We'll ring Kent up and say, okay, I've found the fully open position of the valve. It's fully open, and I'm finding that I've got quite a bit of dwell point. Do I divide by 2 to find the point that's halfway in between that dwell? This is the question I'm going to phone them now, and I'll report back with the answer. Just understand, please, I know I keep emphasizing this on the video. I know that a lot of you can build Pintos to a brilliant level, so if you're going to send me a comment about this, please make it a constructive one, and not say this guy doesn't know what he's doing. If you're going to tell me something, at least open some decent dialogue, because I'm trying my best with this. I'm enjoying it, don't get me wrong. and of course, you know, I'm trying to do a quality job. I don't want to mess it up, so that's why I'm taking advice. Never be shy to ask advice and have mentors. Every successful person needs a good mentor, you know. It helps. Someone to just give you some guidance and advice, and that's what I need right now. Just help me along. I'll understand it. I will pick it up pretty quick. I just need that little guiding hand to help me through. I'm doing all right so far, I think. So 110 there, fully lifted here. But here's our question. We've got this degree of movement, which where you can continue turning before that starts to go back the other way. Indeed, let's see it go back the other way, because I can rest the camera on my arm. There it. Whoa! And there's that jump as it springs back, and it's found its way round, and then the force of the spring is able to push the cam. That's because the rest of the followers aren't on there to hold it in a more accurate place. I knew that would happen. That doesn't really matter for now, because we just spin round again. It's not connected on the belt, so you just go round again now, and the gauge will pick it up. But I think it actually disturbed the gauge, so I'll reset the gauge into position. But before I do that, I'm going to make a call. Okay, after speaking to those guys now, we've just got to find a maximum lift point. Just helping, the gauge just helps us with that. It's sat on that inlet valve. There's a little bit of dwell. I'm going to go just halfway between the dwell. It's still going down. Coming back up now, so go back round the other way, so it's pushing it back down, and we'll see where the needle just doesn't quite make any movement for what I do, which is exactly there. So that is it. Now if I go any further, still moving the spanner, and the needle's not moving, so we're in the dwell point now. There it goes, just started to move, so I want to go back a little bit. It'll come back, then it'll hover for a sec. There it's hovering now, so we're in it. Exactly there is where we're at. That's full lift, so the gauge kind of like reaches a point on the dwell where when I turn the spanner nothing happens, and that's the point. You want to go just between it, so that's where we're at now. So that's where you can fit the belt fully open there. Let's take it. 110, valve fully open in the middle of its dwell, lock the belt on, then we'll take the distributor off and reseat the distributor. We'll turn this to top dead center, then set the distributor, although it's not this distributor so it doesn't really matter, but you'd have to reseat your distributor. This can go in any position, doesn't really matter, as long as you take the dizzy out, set your dizzy so that when it's on top dead center on ignition stroke, because you can be on an exhaust stroke, you just got to get it on a compression stroke, because these are 180 for one turn of the crank, gives only half a turn of this because of the gearing. That's half the size, that cog's half the size of that cog, so that cog can turn round once, which will only turn this round half. That's how you can get them 180 out. It needs to be the compression stroke where this rotor points to number 1 and the points are just about to open at TDC. So that's what I know, that's what I've gathered. So now I'm going to fit the belt locked in that position, and then we can fit the followers, and we'll be turning the whole engine and everything will be turning, so we'll be using the crank pulley to set everything up now on here rather than turning it on there. Okay, here we go. I think we're getting there now. I hope that you're finding this of some use and that you're not cursing the heck out of me. Like I told you, I keep saying it because I'm worried about it, that people who know how to build these will rip me for it. I hope you don't. I'm very sensitive, you know. Okay, cam belt on, please. Okay, a 13 and a flat blade. Lever back on the tensioner to get it fully released, or fully pre-tensioned to be fair. See how, see how this can move, look. So I'm just going to lock it up there. You use that 13 head bolt to lock it. It's now tensioned against the tension spring there. That will be locked later. Fed the belt in at the bottom, then we come up at the top and slot it over the cam. Now if the teeth don't match, this is where you use the vernier wheel to exactly line it up on its teeth. You may find that it doesn't quite make it. This one doesn't quite make it. You just about get it in here. You require a little bit of persuasion, because that's what you want. You check that your teeth are in. Now I know I've got my timing wheel on. It makes it a little bit trickier to see if it's engaged down there, but it is in. It's not on this wheel, so turn this wheel. It is there now. It gives us a little bit more. That's probably enough to do it. We actually are on that wheel, actually, to be fair to it. And I'm on wheels. It'll go, it'll go. Just like that. So, teeth in there, and teeth on the bottom sprocket, I think. Yes, everything is in. Now, can you see everything there? Just about. Tilt you down. Classic stuff, this classic home movie stuff. Let me tilt you down, jerk here, tilt there. Classic home movie stuff. That belt is in. Let's rerun through what we just did. Okay, because I took it out of me, that. So we can relax now. Yeah. Hey. It's easy for you watching on YouTube, watching on the YouTube. Right. Let's run through it one more time. Now it's sinking into this area here. We used our lovely little wheel. We used our lovely little dial indicator. We actually don't need that here now. We used this magnetic dial indicator. A little needle that moves up and down and moves the pointer around the face. We used that to find the number one piston right at the top of its travel, if you will. It's called top dead centre, and there's a little bit of dwell time in that top dead centre, and we use this to help find just a halfway point. Once we found that, we bolted our wheel onto here, and we made ourselves a little pointer, bolted the wheel on so that the wheel showed 0 on the red arrow here, and it was pointing to that lovely little pointer that we made. We painted it at the end. Then, according to the Kent Cam instructions, they want the first inlet valve to be fully open when the crank has gone 110 degrees clockwise. So we turned it with a 19 spanner till it landed on 110 here. Then we went up here and put the dial gauge on the inlet valve, turned the sprocket with no cam belt on until the dial gauge, we found that point where it just starts to go back up, from going up to be going back down, what's called the dwell. And we went halfway in between it, which made the sprocket land just exactly where it is now. Once that's on, that relative position now, that sprocket wheel relative to the crank sprocket wheel, don't worry about this one, are matched according to how they want you to do it in the book, as far as I know. Then fit the belt by pushing the pre-tensioner back on this spring here, then clamping it in place with a 13 for now. Being wary that you've got to tighten this up as well with the tool. That's a spline tool that goes in. I'm just looking if I've got it. Yes, it's over there. Here we need to tighten that up, and then we tighten up. First we let go of the 13, and that tension will now spring round, and that's where you need to do a couple of turns on the engine just to let it bed in. So if I release this, it's going to spring back. You can see it doing it now. You see that pulling in? There it goes. See how it took that up? And then you should be able to just do a half twist on these. That seems okay to me. If we want, we can rotate the crank while that's still loose. And now the camshaft will turn. And this is where we want to be careful of any pistons touching the valves. It shouldn't do, because it's set that way where they're nowhere near. But if you was to get this wrong on this engine, because it's a high lift cam, if you was to get your cam timing wrong now, and I start to turn this crank, the cam could be pushing a valve down and a piston at the same time is coming up and they can touch. On a lot of Pintos, I think, I can't remember if it's 1600 or 2 litre or both of them, I should know this and I don't, are called non-interference engines, whereby if the cam belt snaps, it doesn't hit the valve to piston, you don't get a valve to piston contact. On high lift cams that does happen, I think. So this will turn everything now, indeed it is. I've now got to turn the engine, and remember we lubricated the bores of the engine as well, so they're not dry, and that begins to become an alive engine, which makes me very happy. I'm very carefully feeling it round. I've no reason to believe the pistons will touch. I feel no resistance at all. Only 3 followers in. This is looking okay so far, but we're turning it just to let this bed in. Couple of turns round of the belt, not the crank. The belt needs to travel. There's quite a few turns of this. You could mathematically calculate how many turns it would take. I'm not going to. Just relearn all this, because I tell you, when I started putting the engine together, I just had no idea. A lot of people have never built Pintos and want to, so they're jumping in at the same point I am, and they're the kind of people who I hope I can help on the channel. Okay. And also I welcome the experts' opinions, not, oh you should have done this, you should have done that, it's too late, whatever I've done. We need constructive feedback, not which 99.9% we get. I'll just delete anyone that puts anything stupid and non-constructive. This gets deleted, I haven't got time for that. We're here to help each other, so come on, let's do this. Right. I'm happy. Everything seems to be running okay. I'm going to nip that up, I'm going to nip that up and lock that in position. So I just need my socket bar to do that. Things have a habit of disappearing. I don't think this is torqued up, so it's a 13 we want. Locking the tensioner now in its home position. Locking it with the special spline tool in its home position. I'm going to show you the spline tool in a sec. There it is. Now you may be able to buy, I'm sure you can. I just think that it's a standard. Here, this is Sykes Pick Advance. 018600. If you Google it, it should come up, but it's one of those either Torx or T bits. I don't know, I'm not very good with stuff like that, but it's splined anyway, and it locks that. Yeah, I'm back to make sure I didn't say it started yet. How quick do you want me to be? Have you run it yet? No. We've gone round enough for this belt. It's like the phone just rang. It was Kent. So, oh, listen to that. Woo! It's the clangers. Right, everything's in. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't need to have that in any particular position, because you just take out the dizzy and it could turn at any point, and it doesn't run anything else to do with timing other than the dizzy, which is removable. So I think we're all right there. So that's it. Now we can add the rest of the followers. I can actually spin you around. Just clip them all in here. The little ears go inwards towards the crank, they don't stick out. There's 2 little locating ears for these springs to lock onto. I like to use, I'll tell you what. Whoa, there goes the dial gauge. Stay on. Stay on. You may as well. I'll show you the spring. I'll show you how I hook them on. Right. Let's get a follower. I'll show you the next stage that we're doing. Crossing in front of the camera. A follower suited to the cam and a spring and a follower. So we need the spanner arm because we've got to turn the crank and the cam round so that we can slide these under. What I've got to do is get this and slide it under. So come across on the tripod overhead and let's have a look what we can. It's great because the pressure's off. And put this stud in. Got new studs here as well for the exhaust and a new set of exhaust bolts and studs and everything like that. Can go in. We can put the exhaust manifold on later. I use this pick for these. Now in my magnetic tray, here's the follower. So that just pushes the valve down, and these are the contact pads which we want to lubricate. And here's a ball and socket, I think you can just see, and I'll wind it all the way down. Now at the moment I can't slide this in. Hold on, there's another contact face to do. We'll do all them. Done these ones. This goes under there, but I don't think we'll get it with the cam in that position, so that's why we turn the engine round, which now drives the cam, of course. Make sure we go clockwise, get that cam lobe out of the way. That's what I mean about getting it all running. This now slots under, see, so that goes under nice and easy. And now with these 2 little ears, just checking that you can see, just about see it because it's slightly angled away from you. Hook this, it's nothing to it. Under there it goes, a little bit of tension to squeeze it between the 2 little wire ears, and then this is what I like to use because you can just hook hold of it, bring it up, and then gets it on there, then boom, we're in. So that's a follower in. I get another follower. Here they are in a bag. Follower set from Kent, again from Kent, suited for this application cam. Put them on the magnet there, so a little bit there of the cam lube which comes with the cam, and then let's look for another one which it'll fit. This one will go because the lobe's up there, no problem, straight in. Now find a spring. Here's our springs on the bench, assembly bench, rattling because they all managed to hook themselves together like those puzzles that you could get in Christmas crackers. The impossible chain puzzles, remember those? Lower quality crackers in infill presents are available. Hooking on into the ears we go. Ball joint lowered all the way down, ball stud lowered all the way down. On there, getting my little pick so we can hook up, and it works every time. Boom! That's that one done. We've only got 3 more to go. This is going rather swimmingly. Faster than I thought, and I'm talking faster than I thought. This is James Bond, Need to Know Time. You know, because you need to know. Name the film, please. You know, because I can't quite do the gangster voice. You know, because you need to know. No, because you need to know. Does this ball? I see. Wind it all the way down. First, we'll get the clearances later on. All the way down helps. Even a little bit more. And then you're in. Ears on the inside. This is for you, this side. Sunny side up for you. a hook there, and a hooker there. Push down on that. Our special captain hook. Boof. A boof. I'll need 2 more to go. Can you stand the suspense? You still on? You're still on. I'm watching your record light, making sure. You know I keep saying that. Another follower. Gloop. A gloop. Are we alright? Yeah, this loads all the way out of the way. It was very kind of it. Wind down the ball stud. And this one goes all the way home. That ball stud needs more. Nope, it needs a little bit of Jill gas going. Give it a bit of Jill gas going. Can you work that one out? Now, viewers of a certain age, talking in riddles and rhymes, this needed some persuasion. It needed a bit of a something. Jill Gascoigne, I think it was Jill Gascoigne, good looking lady. Brunette, 70s, television programme. So what did it need? It needed a bit of a something. Not too harsh, that's another clue. The hell is he going? What the hell is he going on about? Another quote. We need 1 more follower, and we've got the 1 more follower. So Kent sent the right amount. Of course they would, because they're boxed up in bags and boxes. Who'd get that wrong? Is the ball stud all the way down, we ask? Yes it is. Is the cam all the way up? No, it's not. Have we got a 19 to rotate? Well, we just had one. Is Pete going hyper? Yes. 19. I'm hyper because I'm excited. It's like being in one of those visual stimulation rooms at the ward, if you know what I mean. Loads of coloured lights and bubbles. Lovely. Lovely stuff. Stimulation rooms. Coloured tubes, water bubble tubes. Is that bolstered all the way down? Don't ruin it on the last one. Yes, ruin it on the last one. Because the ball stud needs... No? Okay. Lay off. Right. Ears on the inside, please. A hook and a hook. A clip and a clip. So handy using the... Whoa! No! So handy using the pick. Hey, you know why I did it. This definitely goes, it just went on. Right, all followers are now in. All follower tappet clearances are not set. We need to set them with some feeler gauges. We'll do that next. What you do, there's a little nut at the bottom here, you slacken that off. You turn a little ball tower, the ball stud, it's like a little tower. It will raise or lower the clearance between the heel or the lobe of the cam versus the heel of the follower. And you're meant to have 0.2 and 0.25 inlet and outlet clearances. Feeler gauges go in. There's certain techniques of doing it. I've still never worked out the best one. And that'll get us the clearance. You need that little bit of clearance. You don't want these binding tightly against this. It needs room for expansion, a little bit of movement, but you don't want them too great because it sounds like a sewing machine. That's it. So we should be able to rotate all the way around. Going slow just in case we've got any interference. I'm feeling it on the 19 spanner, see if there's any resistance. I go to dead slow. We don't want it to crash into any pistons. That won't happen. So there you go. There's also you can't actually lock the cam with a bolt, a spanner there. You can actually turn that, but I'd never turn the cam and try and use it to turn the engine round. That's not a good move. You should always apply force to the crank sprocket bolt or crank pulley bolt. So you can see everything running there. little bits of oil are dribbling out as I'm turning this round out of the galleys in the central tower. And you can see the oil flooding out here, which is what we want. I'd say we're up and running there. We are moving quick, folks. Better than I thought, I must admit. Right, there's not much else to do there. We are done for those. Apart from the clearances, we're done. I might address the clearances in a separate clip. For now, I think I'm tempted to put the exhaust manifold on because there's nothing in the way. I don't think that's going to hinder us in any way, shape or form. We can also do the inlet manifold. Then we're approaching the engine being almost completed. It's time to clear some room on the bench. It's time for a wipe down. Stay with me, I'm not finished with you yet. We'll take off the timing card now from the front of the crank. Leave the loop on. So I think we're doing well. Let's see why not. Not broke yet. See you in a sec. Okay, a little bit of a jump ahead, a little time warp, just as I've been setting a few extra things up. We've got the power steering pump just on loose, mocking up the alternator there, just on loose, just starting to really find the nuts and bolts that we all need for this. Got the water pump pulley on there, again everything's on loose, just knocked on the bottom pulley as well. So pulleys and belts, just so measure the belt distance, I've got that now. We've got it plenty, just about 2/3 of the way in. It'll probably tension out a little bit more and end up being about halfway on that bar, so that's good. Maybe just under halfway on the bar. We had to make up some stabilising bars which fit at the back of the power steering pump. Copied them across from Ruby's, which has got the originals on, so we've got some steel bar we've used. Just got a little bit more welding to do on it, but we had to make a dog leg bar there, you can see, and then these will get powder coated, and then we just need to trim the top off this bar so it's a flush fit, and then a standoff bolt. Luckily I had one of those. That's how it works. So that's a stabilising bar which locks the pump and just stops it flexing back under load. And they are close to the manifold. Well, the manifold's not bolted on, but it is virtually copied across from the Cortina setup. So those bars are in, and exhaust manifold just loosely on. Again, just establishing what nuts and bolts I may need or what I'm missing. If there's anything that I needed, but it doesn't look like it. I've got every pulley, alternator pulley, just took the old single pulley off, double pulley on. That just wants the centre bolt putting on it now to lock it in place. So we're doing okay there. Engine's starting to take shape. Not done the valve clearances yet. We can bolt on the manifold, I think now, nothing to stop us doing the inlet manifold. Little temperature sender there, new one in. That was in earlier. Thermostat housing to put on at some point, imminent. But today's job for me was making up these bars and just mocking up, getting everything right, and then just going out and measuring for a fan belt. So gone to Motor Factors and got one. I think it was 1 metre 30, something, 130, 1.3, something like that, distance round. In fact, if you need one, it's a Gates belt, a 6227, there it is. That just goes on all right. Could probably go in one size up if you had to. That would take you about there on the bar, but we're okay there. Exactly the same as Ruby's belt size. So a little bit more on the engine today, but a good few hours spent just getting the bars to land in the right place, really. A little bit of sort of engineering was needed So this is a join and it's welded up. You can't quite see. I didn't film that, but you can just see if we go in. We've got that turn on the tube. I'm not sure why they have two. I think one could be for movement that way backwards and the other one stops it going that way perhaps. But that's how they were, 2 bars, and then the standoff bolt which we had in stock. Luckily we didn't have the bars in stock, so they were made up. I'm going to secure the alternator now that we've got this set up correct and bolt the pulleys on because they're just loosely on. We need to find all matching sets of bolts. We need a longer crank bolt. My crank bolt I've got was for a short pulley, single pulley. This is a lot deeper, so I'm going to go and dig out a crank bolt. I hope I've got one. We'll go and have a look for that now. Okay, moving on with the engine. Right, most of the engine stuff's going good. We've got the clip out, Sean's in with us. We're just de-dusting it, got a little bit of dust. The odd little bit of overspray, just must have been something in the air, so we just buffed that back off. Did have a cover over it most of the time, sure. Don't know why we've got, it's coming up back alright. Yeah, a little bit of overspray. Engine's okay. Got the inlet manifold on, I've got the accelerator bracket on there. We've got the, I found a pipe for that. We've got fuel pipe on there, cam covers on. Things are moving, alternator's tightened up. We need an alternator pulley bolt, that's missing. Don't know where that is. Heat shield on there. Exhaust manifold bolted up, copper nuts. This needs a slightly longer inlet, outlet, exhaust stud putting on. That's too short, that one. Other than that, we're good to go. And he's back in the house. The big man's back. Right, Sean, so wonders why our little conversation got cut off.
Some idiot in a car park.
You just saw what happened. I put the dash cam footage on there as well. Some idiot carved me up in a car park then, but what he did, I'm going to stick the jobby on the dash frame. Let's see if we can do this. Stay with us, everyone. I reckon we can do this like that. You can still hear us. So me and Sean are busy. We're just minting up the clip. We're minting up the clip. Sean was in the Cortina Mk3 when we ran into the back of someone, weren't you?
Yeah.
Right, so if we mint this up.
Well, it was actually parked.
Yeah, parked car. What happened just then? We were gone to get our lovely food, and a geezer in a. I found out since off the insurance company it's a Vauxhall Mockup. So the Vauxhall Mockup just decided to take the easy route.
She said it was.
Yeah, she got it right. She's not daft, is she? So the Mockup carved in front of me. What he's done is gouged out the GXL bumper rubber, which you can't get. Well, you can get them, but they're not easy to get. I think Motormobile might have ones that for other cars that fit, if I recall. Anyway, I'm never going to get another front bumper rubber because this one, new one I've got here, that Sean's got the coronavirus. This one here is reserved for Bramble. So he carved in front of me when we were doing our little chippy tea log, or chippy chat we call them, mine and Sean's chippy chats. Just getting interesting as well, chippy chat.
Yeah.
And so I goes out to him and he said, oh yeah, I can fix that, I'll just wipe that. No wiping, you've gouged your bumper. It's not gouged. And there's a bit of rubber gouged out. He said I'd just done it when he went in to get his food. What an idiot. So I asked him for his insurance details. He wouldn't give me his insurance details. So what can you do except write down the reg of the car? I'd like to do something else, but you can't do that. So I rang the cops, got a crime reference number because I know it's not no one was injured, so technically speaking it's just an insurance job, but I got a crime reference number anyway, and it's got to go through the insurance, but the insurance will find out his details and it's down to whatever happens. But I've got it on dash cam, which will help, so I will be claiming for a new bumper rubber on Ruby as you would. Why should it? He just said, why don't you just pull a bit of rubber off there and sort of sand it back. No, I won't do that. I want a new bumper rubber. I'm not getting you new bumper rubber. I'm not. You're ripping me off. Oh, that's what he said. He said I was ripping him off. So that's it. That's what happened. But for this end of the clip, we're going to end. It's part 2 of the engine build up. We're nearly finished. We're almost done. It just needs a couple of little things. I've got the spark plugs there ready to go in. It wants the valve clearance setting. I've just refurbed the filler cap. We've got a rubber gasket on the rocker cover. I prefer the rubber ones. And we're just waiting for the carburettor to arrive in the post. A radiator needs to arrive. And we're waiting for the distributor to arrive. Now, a little thing on the distributor. I got one from H&H for like 200 quid for Bramble. But AccuSpark do one for 75 quid. And I don't think there's anything in them. They say that they map them out for the cam. But maybe they do if you've got a really fast, aggressive cam. But for an FR30, I wouldn't have thought you really need to map any distributor out. So I'm going to try the AccuSpark one, because there's a big difference between 75 quid on AccuSpark and 220 odd quid on H&H. And to be fair, AccuSpark were really friendly and got a great website, and just they did say for that cam there's no real change to the distributor. Could be wrong on that one, so if you think there should be different weights in it for an FR30, I wouldn't mind your opinion on it. But for now, I'm getting the H&H, the AccuSpark one. If it's not suitable for this cam, it'll go onto my green GXL, or it can go onto Swampy, because Swampy's actually running on points, so we can always go across to that. But I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. We're going to see. I've got my suspicions that the one from H&H at 200 odd quid, if you want my opinion, it's a stock one that's worth about 50 quid. That's just my instinct, but I could be completely wrong. Let's continue on with a little bit more work. I say there's some dust on this. I have had it on the whole undercover with a sheet, but somehow dust has still got in it, so we're de-dusting it. Basically, you can see what I'm doing there, Sean. We're just getting in. There's been quite a bit of dust since this was built, so we're just going in and minting it back up again. That's all we're doing there. We're coming to an end of the engine build faster than I thought, so that gives us a clip. It gives us almost finished engine. Fuel pumps on as well with a push rod. You get the push rod from Burton's. Push rod goes inside, touches the auxiliary cam, and as I've explained earlier, pushes onto the fuel pump. Short and long pins available depending if you have the heat insulating spacer on your fuel pump. Some fuel pumps, thin gasket straight to the block. Others, this plastic heat isolating gasket block, which means you have to have the longer push rod. Do not make the mistake of mix and matching the push rods the wrong way round, otherwise you either over push or under push. You get horrible noises. A hose clip needed for the PCV valve. This is, I don't know where this pipe came from, but it is the correct pipe. So that goes onto there. Just needs a hose clip. I'm not sure if I got that from a jumble. That was jumbled, yeah. That one. Hard to find. I think we are almost there. A bracket to hold the air pan. Bracket to hold the air pan with a funny oval shaped rubbers. They have to be oval shaped to fit because the oval shapes are in the metal clamps. Get them on eBay, about £3 each, quite dear for a bit of rubber, but it's shaped as an oval. Old school style radiator hoses for a front exit rad, there and there. Plenty of clearance on this hose to the belts for the power steering, fits in, tucks in nicely. This pipe's just a mock-up, a spacer bracket to keep this heater hose away from them belts. And there is one more bracket which I haven't got, I'll have to make, which holds the bottom hose back. It's just simply a clamp and keeps this from going forward like that. If the engine flexes, which it does, radiator stays fixed, but engine moves, there's a chance that that can touch them. So what they do, they fit a safety plate here, just a square plate with a hole in it, and it just holds this back like that. So the engine shakes, it can't let the pipe shake on, and the flexing would be done just in that section. That's how that works. what we're going to do for the rest of the day, because I'm having a 4-day break now, so all we're going to do the rest of the day is just clean up and put all the tools back, lay everything out, wipe down any sockets and spanners and things, line everything up neat so when I come back from my 4 days holiday that I've got a fresh start. So we've gone through, Sean's gone through the trays and rearranged some of the nuts and bolts so they're a bit neater, and we're good to go. I'll catch you soon. A quick brief appearance from the big man. Over and out. Now, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, sub-assemblies. You remember we did this dashboard, of course. Well, it's finished, it's tested, it's covered up. You remember we've just been building the engine. It's almost finished, but we'll cover it up for now. Suspension clip, again, we just covered it up for now, but that's almost finished as well. A couple of little bolts, a couple of little clips maybe missing. Same on the engine. Gearbox is down there, not covered up, but what we're doing is we're just wrapping. We're going to have 4 days off, so there's going to be a little break just to give this a rest. Hello? I'll be right there. Yeah, of course, just to give that a little rest. So we cover up, we tidy, we've even done like little niggly little jobs like cleaning up all the socket sets so that they're ready to use later on. Clean everything up, wipe all the sockets down, check everything, make a couple of parts lists of anything we might need. We're missing a Weber carburettor, we're missing the distributor, but they're on order, so we're okay with those. Remember we did the heater box, remember we've done the wiper motor. You might not have seen the wiper motor footage yet, it's bonus footage. It's out on Patreon, it'll be clipped at the end of the film somewhere. We did the heater boxes, we've done the axles ready down there. We did all the plastics, we painted all the plastics getting all ready. So my point being is, sub-assemblies, and we wait for the shell to come back. We've just had word it's coming back in 2 weeks time, which is going to be in your time frame. Your time frame is, mine's the Outer Hebrides, yours is, it will be mid-April when the shell comes back, because they're having a break, I'm having a break, and also they're just getting ready to do the primer and stuff, so it's coming back. 1 month delayed, which is exactly right, because they had a bereavement, they had fuel problems, so I didn't want to pressurise them, and I wasn't ready for the shell anyway. I've been busy doing these things. This took longer, this dash took longer than I thought, simply because, probably because I knew I could get away with doing as much as I wanted on it. So I went the extra mile on this, knowing that the shell was delayed. So it all worked out very well. Obviously we've got to test the engine. We're going to bolt it to the gearbox in the next episode, but for now we call it a day. And you type away in the chat box there, that's good.
Yeah, that's it. I'm finished.
Done. Okay, carrying on with the engine then. It's probably jumped a little bit ahead. Some new parts have arrived. We've got the AccuSpark electronic distributor, very nice piece of kit, beautifully made, 74 quid, yours for 74 quid, all in, postage included, nice, very nice. I do like that piece of kit. And check with AccuSpark to see if it's compatible with the fact that the cam's changed, and they said should be no problem with that mild cam that we've got there, that FR30 cam. So there was no need to go to H&H and pay a lot more, because I don't think it's necessary. Also, the Weber carb arrived brand new out of the box, nice little piece of kit. Apparently all the seals are upgraded for the new petrol that's out there. You can see they've changed the seal types, so that'll be good. We'll just begin to fit these hoses. This is an important hose, the one that loops around the side and goes through the automatic choke there. The heat operated automatic choker bimetallic coil rotates round and opens the choke when it's warm, in a combination with you pressing the accelerator. Fuel pipe connected up, fuel filter in there, Motorcraft 1, fuel pump on, all those belts fitted. We've got the power steering pump on. I don't know where I left you which bits were on. Exhaust manifold on and torqued up. Heat deflector plate or heat collection plate on for winter setting on your
air filter. Move the nozzle down and it picks warm air up from around that area. Some engine mounts on, alternator on, twin belts on for the power steering setup. So that beginning to take real great shape. Because it's been a while, I had 10 days off, nearly got caught abroad, just about made it back. For reasons of flight cancellations, of course you'll know why, but we don't mention the C word here. This is a happy channel. You can get your own information on that, no need for me to add anything to it. So that's that. We've got a nice air filter pan just been painted up and refurbished. This is Bramble's original pan, and here's the fitting kit for the rocker cover. So we've got the rubber gasket, better than the cork gasket, a genuine Ford filler cap, I think that was Bramble's anyway, little scratch on it there, but it's passable. Scotch padded it down, and some special plastic paint to bring that back into life. Some HT ignition lead clips and the HT ignition lead rubber mounting donut, don't say donut, whatever you'd call that, lead separator, and the fitting kit for the rocker cover. So that's been refurbed up in RAL 5010. If you want to know the colour, RAL 5010 for the colour match. My rocker cover, funnily enough, whilst was painted in RAL 5010, turned out to be lighter colour, and I think they got it wrong, so I've took it back. Someone on Patreon pointed that out. I think it was Chris Hale pointed it out. Thanks for that. I was thinking it was probably okay, but it wasn't. So we've took them off, and we're going to have another go at repainting them. I lost a sticker though doing it because I'd fitted the stickers. Never mind. Other than that, you're good to go. So there we are with that. We've got some Motorcraft decals to go on this hose. The service stickers, the stock stickers, stick round it. They'll go on. Although they were probably only fitted when you bought the hoses to replace. I don't think they're on from the factory, but I like putting them on. It's a nice little detailing touch. So that's good for that. Clip over there. We've already seen it, so that's where we're up to. We're getting into a position soon. We'll do the valve clearances, then we're getting into a position soon where we can lift this off with the engine crane, and then we're going to, whilst it's suspended on the engine crane, that's the point where we'll bolt the gearbox on. So we'll have to be getting the, I think this has got the spigot bearing, which you normally have on a manual on a clutch. Spigot bearing's located in the end of the crank. We need to hydraulic that out, and then we can fit the torque converter flex plate and bolt the gearbox on the back. That'll be done while the engine's swinging on the crane, and then it'll be lowered onto the test jig, which will wheel in shortly. The test jig's in the back of the Mondeo. That's going to be good when that's on the floor and all fitted up. We can actually run the engine. We've got to rev that engine when it first fires. It doesn't like to just tick over. You need to give it a bit of revs. And we're not going to do much running. We'll get it up to temperature. We'll rev it at 2000 RPM. Check there's no water leaks and that the system's pressurising okay, and there's no oil leaks anywhere. And then that's basically all we're going to do. Make sure it's firing, running. We're only going to give it a total running time of about 20 minutes, and then we'll leave it till it goes in the car. Next jobs then for me, there's a bit of a tidy up needed again, always needing to do that. What I'm going to do is get the power steering rack fitted into the clip. Now the power steering rack, a choice of two just underneath these parts here. One we've found new old stock, would you believe, off the shelf from Nick New Ford. We've got ourselves a Mark IV 78 BB code new old stock power steering rack, and it's never been used, so we're going to just degrease it on the bench here. This bench is a breakdown bench, a tear down bench, so it's got a drain hole, so we'll clear the bench, place the steering rack on there and get the degreaser out. Then we'll jet wash it back. We're hoping that it maintains its seals and the jet washer doesn't penetrate in. It shouldn't do, but it is going to need a bit of a jet wash back to get it clean. So that's what the plan is today. But the first job before we do anything else, clear lots of space on the floor, put away any bits associated with the engine until the rocker cover and cam cover come back in, although they don't need to be fitted just yet because, as I said, with some valve clearances to do. They're only going to get in the way, so we'll dig out any more hose clips and things like that we need. This hose isn't meant to be on there, it's just to test the guide clip that I've fitted to take this pipe away from these power steering and water pump belts, fan belts. That's that. A few other little bits to sort out. There's the accelerator linkage there, but that's got a cruise control bracket, so that's left till we weld the bracket on. The bracket has to be fitted. I think, if I recall rightly, I have to have that through the bracket, then weld the tab onto it, because otherwise you can't thread that through with the cruise control bracket welded on. So that's that. And then we fit our extender on here. We make it, copy it across from Ruby's cruise control setup that works a treat, as you know. Leave me now just to tidy the bench and the floor, put all the tools away to start afresh. We'll keep on going for this part of the film. Hope you're enjoying it so far. You could well be in episode 36 by now, even 37, I don't know. It's very easy to lose track of the episodes. A nice little treat for you, just grabbing in my left hand, is the steering column. You've already seen this earlier on, but this is a different one. This has got the choke bracket on it, because it's off a car which, not off Bramble, it's off a car which had choke, and there's the bracket right in the middle of your screen. We're going to be using the choke for a very special feature. We're going to assemble the choke as it would be, but we're going to use it as an extra speed controller for the boosted fan that we've got. We're going to have, let's just go under here and have a look. I'll show you what I mean. Here is a speed controller. This can switch up to 40 amps, and by turning this knob here you can control a 40 amp motor very smoothly. What we didn't want to do is use the slider control on the panel to control the speed of the motor, because it won't be able to switch enough power through and it wouldn't give it a variable speed. This will do. So what we're going to have is fixed speeds on the slider on your control, but on the far side it'll go to a set speed which will be about half the power of the fan motor, but which is at least double the speed of a fastest fan motor on a standard motor. So you'd be basically using the control the same way and it results in the same airflow. However, when you're full across to the left, if you wanted to, you would use this to add extra power to it. And that'll be done with this slide potentiometer. And that choke cable that you can see here will fit on the end of this, and the choke will slide this. When you could fit this directly into the slot of the steering column, which is where it's going to go, and not have the cable, but it won't quite feel the same. It's too easy to slide, and the knob for the choke won't fit on the end of there, and I don't know, this way here is much more robust. It just means you've got to get the other end of the cable and hook it into that, which we can do. That'll replace this knob. Just desolder this one and have the flying leads attached to that. Your choke will be a period looking piece, but it'll be controlling the extra power that comes in when you're on full. I'll show you that when it's all set up. So that's another nice little feature that we're going to do. Plenty of things. We're needing a nut for the end of there. We've lost that, so we need one of those. But other than that, we're pretty much good to go. So, as I said, leave me to clear up. We'll resume on that power steering cleanup shortly, and we'll be doing some valve clearances. Basically now honing in and closing in on the engine and gearbox. The marriage between the gearbox under the bench, the engine there, and then power steering needs to be nicely cleaned and painted in Frost Extreme Chassis Black. And they just overpaint the whole rack. They don't have any individual, even the pipes appear to get just all overpainted, look. They don't seem to detail out anything on it. With the exception of a yellow dot there, even the nuts were painted over, look. That is factory, that is how it was. So that's good, it makes life a lot easier for me. We'll see you in a bit. We're tidying up.
Okay, engine out of the way, clip out of the way, floor cleared, and then new old stock Mk3 78 BB on the bench, so your gunge can drain down there into this, so that's good. So we're using the nurture again. We need to really get a little tub of the nurture going with a little bit of water in it just to dilute it down, or to dip in really, I suppose. Maybe not dilute it, but we need a tub to dip in now, so we'll do that. Let's dip in. Let's be a Cadbury superhero and use their tub. Smells good. Yeah. I'm looking. I can't get my works the right way round. I'm looking forward to cleaning this up and giving it some lovely frost a chassis black. We'll need the wire brush on those track rod ends, but suffice it to say, all the grime shall wash away in the morning. Yes, they just overpainted everything black. Now, isn't that a concourse restorer's dream to say, hey, this is as Ford would have liked it? And it's actually made by Ford as well. A lot of them were aftermarket. See the stamping and the castings there? A lot of these racks, you'd buy them at Advance Exchange or just outright back in the day, and you would get a remanufactured or a copy one. This cast by Ford, I do see an indentation in that tube there. I think that's the vacuum, that's the air differential tube, so the gaiters don't draw suction because it's sealed with these wire ties, which we need to inspect. They could be rusty. When you turn left, when you turn right, you will pressurise and depressurise the bellows of the gaiters, or the gaiters, they are bellows. So to stop that, you have this pipe which transfers the pressure between the two. It stops dirt getting in. If you just had these open, it would suck in dust, brake dust and stuff like that. So to stop that, this tube transfers the pressure from one side to the other, or equalises the pressure. We'll continue with the nurture degreaser. Let's see how we get on, and we're going to jet wash it. Okay, jet washing, it's up there for debate, isn't it? Let's see how we get on. We may not have to. It's looking, and to be fair, I thought it was coated in grime. It's actually, what do you think? It's not looking too bad. Patrons, YouTubers, what are you reckoning? Are we cleaning or what? Certainly be painting it. Give me a few minutes. Give me 15. Give me 15. I'll be right back. Yeah. Here's a theory for you. It was, how about that this was an exchange rack, that's why it's got a yellow dot on it, and it, maybe when it was made these pipes were all different colours, or the detailing on it was different, as opposed to all being painted black, because it does seem strange that Ford would cover it all in black paint, although it's not out of the question. How about that these were offered up as exchange units, and that the exchange people painted it all black? Because I've seen that happen for sure. So I wonder if that's actually, so it's not brand new as such, but it's just an exchange item. It's possible, or it could be straight from Ford, never been used. Who knows? But that's the way it is. It's cleaning up okay. I could do a really, I don't want to take it apart. What could we see is, needs any grease packing in it. And imagine these at the ends, the grease will have dried up, and indeed it could have dried up in here. We could get to it and dissolve the grease and repack it. I could do with taking that inspection cover off maybe and just seeing the condition of the grease, but if it was from 1978 then that grease could have hardened. If it was a rebuild in the 80s, there's not really much in it, is there? I don't know, it depends when, if it was rebuilt when it was. straight from Ford, never been on the car, then you know the grease could be even older. Maybe I should take that cover off and have a look. I know in these here it's nice clean oil, so we'll keep on going. Whatever you say, boss. I couldn't see, the sun was in my eyes and I caught the mirror. I was just getting dazzled. It was like, and I've hit the wall, you know, took them. Can you fix that while I wait? I've caught them on day wing mirror, but I couldn't see. Footage for patrons. We're red hot on the paint situation. Silver Fox, or as I like to call it, HMS Ark Royal. Stardust, or as I like to call it, Taxi Cab Silver, or Ford Transit Silver. So you're with me on this little quick patron only video clip. It's a Thursday today. Here's our swatches. One for Lee Holmes, this. Stardust Silver there, look. We got Oatmeal, we got Nimbus Grey, we don't want that. We got Moondust and Stardust. Very similar. But then we get interesting. Then we get down to the Silver Birch Club. A Ford USA colour actually did Silver Birch, and look, it's got a little bit of coppery hue to it, and you can see the metallic flakes much better than you can on Stardust and Moondust. Fox is out the window because it's very flat. It just hasn't really, it's just like a grey. There's nothing really going on there, you know. So Andy, the car's talking to me, it's telling me no. Cider Andy, the car's talking to me, telling me no. I mean, yeah, red and silver there do work, but Silver Birch is looking like a favourite. So we're going to go into the mixing department and get the necessaries up on the screen. Silver Birch Ford. You saw it here first on Patreon. So we're going to measure out and we're going to spray a bit on a wing and see what we get. Let's have a little look, a little bit of Thursday night footage for the Patreons. Haha. Is it gonna be nice? It's actually live. We're actually live on the paint mix. I mean, this is the biggest part. Get this wrong, we may as well pack up home and go. Pack up and go home. We blow this, guys and girls out there in Patreon land. We've blown it. Pete's blown it. So votes in now, please. Hit your keyboards. Silver Fox is on the left hand side, coming up strong. Stardust dropped right back, but in the lead. Silver Birch metallic, a throwback to the DB5, not quite the DB5 colour, but a Ford colour this time. Can we do it? Can Juju do it? Can the Ranger do it? Yes, the Ranger can.
do like a little bit of copper pearl jewelry. You'd have thought you'd have brown in, but that's like, look at that. This is a sign. That's the interior colour as well, isn't it? That's the actual dashboard colour. Look, guys. Wow. It's a sign. It's a sign. It's a sign. It's a sign. Shades of the interior. Browny red. Coming through into the actual mix. So copper pearl coming in. Is this exciting? Or is this exciting? It's taken me ages to get through this. Look, there's a bit of copper bronze, of course, a Cortina colour. So excited, everybody? Don't forget, this isn't definitive. This is just, this doesn't have to be. I'm interested in your feedback. So get typing this evening. Get your beers, your coffees, your teas, and get typing away. Live. Well, live-ish today. Luckily, I've got time to do it. I'm a little bit busy on some other projects at the moment, but we're okay. Stir. Computer tells you everything. Must refresh your memories. There it is again. Okay, don't forget that Stardust is quite taxi driver transit style. Okay, not bad, but Mr. Mondeo is waiting for you. It's got a funny colour. I'm liking that. Yeah, it's looking alright so far. Yeah. More interesting. There's more going on than Silver Fox and a bit more going on than Stardust. Just a little bit extra sort of detail to it with the red, with the copper. Just, I can just see it under certain lights. Just give you a little bit more interest and something to talk about. Okay, let's see how it goes on with the gun. Okay, so we've got Fox, Stardust and Birch. There's the three. Take your pick. Let's see if we can catch any. So we've got no pigments in this one. I don't think we've got any much that had the copper in it. I don't think Stardust had any copper put in on that mix. I can see that already there. Anyway, there's the three. Okay, all the paints are on. Let's take a little tour around a mixture of fluorescent and sunlight. Well, that's it. Let us know what you think. Catch you back at base. Okay, quickly refurb that one. Track one ends on the steering rack now. Steering rack sprayed up in the Frost chassis black. I got that exchange or whatever yellow dot back on it, and there's a yellow dot up at this end. So one was a sticker, one was a paint blob. So I copied them across. There it goes in. You have to shave a little bit of metal off the clip to get these racks in. The tower on the Mark IV rack's slightly wider, but obviously they would have had a different shape here on the suspension on a 2.3 gear Mark IV Cortina. But we just used the die grinder and just shape it out, or the croc sander did that. Now just fitting the bolts and the locking plates that go on those. And we're ready to lock this into position. As I said, track rod ends are on with the lock nuts on and some grease. We just need to take this cover off and see if the grease is old. We'll be repacking it. I've got a feeling it's going to be alright. We'll see. So just a question of locking these up. I've got 2 galv bolts and 2 non-galv bolts. I thought I had all 4, but I didn't know I was using this particular steering rack. So 2 extra bolts are needed which aren't galved. They're going to have to go. I'll put them in opposite ways, so 2 galvs and 2 non-galvs there. A bit annoying, but I ain't going to go out and get them galvanised. And I have looked in the boxes. We don't seem to have any of equal length. You could argue I could put the unequal length ones in and have the galv heads. Oh, what do you do? What do you do? So that's it. For that we just need to connect up the track rod ends now into here. Quite simple job. Take them protective caps off, pull them in, and then you set up there. We could do a pressure test in it, really. We'll do that when the engine's running with some flexi hoses off the power steering pump. Nothing to stop us connecting these across. In fact, yeah, we'll have to do it off the power steering pump. You could spin just the pump up with a motor. That is possible as well, and we could test it without the engine running by taking the fan belt off and using an electric drill to get the RPM. I don't know what kind of torque you'd need. The drill might not be able to do it. Probably won't. A more powerful drill would be needed. We don't have any around. Let me think that over. We're almost finished on all the little bits on the clip, really. Some stabilising bars to fit. From here they clip in, they bolt in. We'll get them on there just down in that tub there. So continuing on building the clip, got to go across here then and do the valve clearances. And then I shall be picking up the rocker cover because I got it redone. Darker shade, it was too light. Then we can lift the engine off the stand by using the engine crane. Let's see a Mark III on the engine crane, and then get the spigot bearing out the back, get the gearbox on. Then we're going to wheel in the engine test jig. It's just outside, waiting in the wings. See you in a sec. Well, this is my town and what's left of it. The Mecca's fallen.
Oh.
Oh my god. No. They can't stop you playing bingo. Don't take away a man's basic right to play bingo. Whoever spoons, well, I won't miss that. This town. Okay, so you got your off licenses. Phoenix is finished. I don't know if that'll ever rise from the ashes. Turkish. Booming trade in takeaway sales. Eric rubbing his hands together.
Sorry.
Is that a dry cough? You haven't got a fever, have you?
No.
West Street, the biggest. How about a Thai massage?
No, they've been ordered to close.
Thai massage?
All the massage parlours, yeah.
Hand washing your socks. Fire pit, Go on, just give us a bit of hope, a glimmer of hope. A glimmer of hope will do. No? No. None. Okay, retro bar. Many an 80s night dancing to George Michael in there. No. Not happening. Oh, come on. Sean's chop house. Hang on, slow down. Oh, let me get it. Because Sean won't be happy about this. Let me get a... Where's the electric windows? Sean! That's Sean from the Chippy Chats. This is his regular. This is Cortina City, and this is a bit of additional footage. Sean is well known to frequent the chop house every Saturday night. Beer and bourbon just ain't happening. And what Sean's gonna do now, here's a thing, talking of golden oldies, what about getting your hair cut?
You're not getting it cut, lad.
There'll be a rise in sales of sort of self haircut kits, razors, colours, what are the clippers?
Clippers, yeah.
I'll just have to get a crew cut.
You'd have it done like Mark Bronski beat years ago, crew cut with a fringe.
Tintin.
Which way, left, right?
Leo's bar right. My arcade there. Now a rock shop. Had some good machines in that arcade.
Silcock selling toilet rolls in a kid's grabber machine. That's just about sums my boss up. That. It's putting toilet rolls in a teddy bear machine.
The Indians open for takeaways.
Well, you know what they say about cockroaches. Oh, that's come out wrong. No, I don't mean that. I mean that they got shut down for cockroaches, and cockroaches survive a nuclear war. It wasn't supposed to be anything else.
They mustn't. Oh, they do. Oh yeah, they're doing deliveries, aren't they?
The Shamrock got shut down for cockroaches. Do you remember? Or was it the Lalkeela? Lalkeela got shut down for cockroaches.
That was on Old Park Lane, wasn't it? At Hyde Park Road.
The Lalkeela, yeah, that was it. Not Shamrock. Sorry, Shamrock.
Shamrock.
Sorry, I take it all back. And cockroaches survive a nuclear war.
Lovely.
Or an apocalypse.
Crispy cockroaches.
Russells?
Russell. No, I thought Russell's is the next block.
Oh yeah.
That's that other one. Oh, Bistro 21 on the hotel.
Wow, you can't close Bistro 21.
The room's closed too. It'd have to be, wouldn't they? A hotel's closed.
No, don't tell me the fish and chip. No, because the Swan.
They won't be able to have eat-ins.
They're completely bomb-proof, the Swan. Yeah, you can have eat-ins. Well, you should just sign a self-assessment form when you go in. Say, I'm prepared to catch the disease. I don't mind. I'm going in.
Russell's is closed. Le Garog and Sacre Bleu. That nice Greek one down here. That's probably not finished.
That should be shut down. I hope that finishes them off. Fried whitebait.
Ugh.
Oof, can still taste it.
That was the worst meal I think I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I can still taste the whitebait. That battery.
That night when Margaret Jane said we found a restaurant, so we were like, no.
Oh no.
Left, right.
They weren't. No, right. Fire station will be open though, won't it? Not going to close the fire station. What if people catch fire? Cafe Garden. The footballers' retreat. That's all Wayne Rooney's.
Where do you want me to go?
The plants seem undernourished.
Round or over? Round or home?
Back round Lord Street. Wayne Rooney. That's Wayne Rooney's place.
What, Cafe Gardens?
Used to be, yeah.
What, did he have old grannies in there for him?
Hey.
He likes to grab a granny, doesn't he?
Oh God, I have no idea. He's a footballer, isn't he? I don't know.
Prostitutes that are grannies.
What?
Yeah.
That's a curved ball.
What's a what?
A curved ball.
That's what he got caught with.
Right. I don't watch the telly. I don't know.
This was years ago.
I know he's a footballer. I can't believe Beals has gone. I wanted to shop in there for the last time.
Isn't that Debenhams have gone and Beals have gone?
Hang on a minute. Throw us a lifeline. Where do you eat? Because that's got nothing in it to eat. All the shelves are empty. They must have restocked it. It's full again. Idiots. Absolute idiots.
I don't know why there's any cars driving down. There's no point
Probably
driving.
all doing what we're doing.
Homeless people
Yeah,
aren't
they're
here.
not hovering around.
So,
Want you to die in vain, does he? So you do.
a Corona beer.
Corona cough.
Papa John's is open. Throw me a lifeline. I can't believe Mecca's fallen though. Let's go and see it. Let's go and see how Eric is. I'll zoom in on him.
The thing is, if nowhere's open, it'll only be people that are specifically going to him, aren't they? That will be all the drunkards.
No, it won't be the drunk. Won't be the drunk tank. Slow. Stop. Keep going. There's nobody in there.
It's a frosty faced woman. Apologies if you're a frosty faced woman.
Kingsway.
I know. Karen said that to me dad on FaceTime today. She went, "You're in the Kingsway tonight then, Dad." That needs
All it really need to do now is just turn the electric off to seal the deal.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're going to do something, you may as well do it properly. Just disconnect the electric, because there's nothing else. There's no point having the power on, is there?
No.
There's nothing. What about Funland? He'll be open till the blooming.
He's not allowed, is he?
He was open the other day.
From last night, he won't have allowed to, I'm sure, because it attracts crowds. It's leisure, innit? Leisure thingies.
He said pubs, clubs, restaurants and bars. He didn't say amusement arcades.
I think amusement arcades are. Oh no, the amusement arcades weren't. They were open today.
Yeah. Slow down. There's that electric window. There's no one behind you, so you can go past here dead slow. This is where I was born and bred. It's time served in that place. Time served. Full electrical engineer. That. And here was Dixieland, then Follies Disco. Got in there when I was 16. A double Malibu and Coke. And then McDonald's is, yeah, you see, this is it. The bomb will drop, but you'll never get rid of the pair of boobs.
That's what Lewis said for his tea tonight.
Oof.
Oh, McDonald's is nice. You can't say it's not nice.
I can. It's not nice.
Oh,
Disgusting. Filth place. Why, out of everything, why is that not shut? That
Because it's
tip.
takeaway. And it's busy.
No, it's not. There's nobody there.
Yeah, but it was before when we drove past. When me and Karen drove down here, it was queued up outside here, and it was queued up outside KFC.
Ugh, another filth outlet.
There's that awful place. I told you about the awful meal we had there, didn't I?
Train, they shut the pier train down. They can't stop you running though, can't stop me doing a 4K along here. No one can stop that. There's another filth outlet. Filth. Disgusting. Can't stop me running along here though, can they? Ha 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 ha. Can't stop that. Can't stop me breathing fresh air yet. I can't believe they've cancelled the car shows. That can't be right. It's basically 2020's cancelled, isn't it?
Majority of it looks like it is. I mean, if kids aren't going back to school till September, they've only just got back after half term, haven't they, really? They should have up to Easter, then they should have up to Whit and Easter, then they should have another week, and then they should have Easter, then they should have Whit, then they should have the summer holidays, and then they go back. But obviously they've just got all that. Kids aren't doing exams.
How long before stir crazy sets in though?
Oh, with me about another hour.
I already want to
Smash someone's face in.
I'm not saying. I don't normally get stressed. Liberty's like an amazing thing, isn't it? Freedom and liberty
Yeah.
are taken for
Freedom
granted.
to do what you want, when you want, however you want, and then all of a sudden you can't.
The supercomputers will fix it. They're not going about the supercomputers or vitamin D. They keep it quiet. And listen to this one. The shops are empty of food, yet there's lots of fruit and vegetables. Wait a minute, the exact things you're supposed to be eating. Ridiculous. There's plenty of fresh fruit and veg. Yeah?
There is.
Yeah. No, but nobody wants to eat it because they're stupid. Everything's shut. Except Cortina City. We're going to keep on going.